Language is part of communication where we could express our ideas, thoughts, and emotion. Around the globe, language varies. Actually, there are 6,500 languages around the globe. Today, we're going to talk about second language acquisition and learning. Under that is acquisition versus learning, grammar translation method, the audiolingual method, monitor model by Stephen, interlanguage theories by Selinker, and universal grammar by Chomsky. Second language acquisition is a language that is being learned after the mother tongue is been established. SLA is a language that is an addition to the first language. The first language that we learned is called L1 or mother tongue. This language is what we acquired when we are young or since birth till we grow up.
The concept itself refers to the formal learning of a language in the classroom. Language learning is also a conscious process, and it is either a formal learning situation or a self-study program. Hence, language learning is an integral part of the unity of all the languages. In language learning, you need to have an adversity because adversity is a good teacher. And in that adversity, it will have an adverse effect on you, and you just have to wait for the right moment and the right time to act or speak so that you can deliver your language easily and correctly.
Grammar Translation Method or GTM. It is a method that based on the target of grammatical competence that focuses on the grammar as a basic of a language. 6 major characteristics of GTM. Number 1. Classes are taught in the mother tongue with little active use of the target language. Number 2. Much vocabulary is taught in the form of list of isolated words. Number 3. Long, elaborate explanations of the intricacies of grammar are given. Number 4. Grammar provides the rules for putting words together, and instruction often focuses. Number 5. Reading of difficult classical texts begin early. Number 6. Little attention is paid to the content of the text. Number 7. Often, the only drills are exercises in translating the target language. Lastly, little or no attention of pronunciation.
This method was used for the purpose of helping students read and appreciate foreign language literature and hope that the students would become familiar the grammar of their native language through the study of grammar of the target language, and that familiarity would help them speak and write better in their native language. Techniques of GTM. There are some techniques that are used in implementing GTM. Every technique is related with the others according to Larsen Freeman. The techniques are 1. Translation of literary passage. The students translate the passage from the target language into the native language. The translation may be written or spoken. 2. Reading comprehension questions. The students answer questions in the target language based on their understanding of the passage they are reading. 3. Antonyms and synonyms. The students ordered to find out the antonym of the some words in the passage. 4 is cognates. The teacher teaches the students to recognize cognates by learning the sound patterns or spelling that correspond between the language.
Well, another method for second language acquisition is the audiolingual method. When we say audio, it is a sound that is heard in a broadcast or in a recording. The University of Michigan professor Charles Carpenter Fries proposed this method. It is an oral-based approach in which methods drills the students in the use of grammatical sentence patterns. It is also based in the theory of B.F. Skinner, which is behaviorist theory. In this case, humans could be trained in the system of reinforcement. When we say system of reinforcement, it is divided into 4 types, which is positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. The audiolingual method effective. First is the repetition drill. The teacher says, models the word or phrases, and the students repeat it. Example, teacher, it didn't rain, so need not have taken my umbrella. Students, it didn't rain, so I need not have taken my umbrella. That's repetition drill. Second is the substitution drill. Substitution drill can use to practice different structures or vocabulary items. Example, one word or more word change during the drill. Teacher, I go to school. He, students, he go to school. They, students, they go to school. That is a substitution drill. Next is the question and answer drill. Teacher gives the students practice with answering questions. The students should answer the teacher's questions very quickly. It is also possible for the teacher to let the students practice to ask questions as well. This gives students practice with the questions pattern. Example, does he go to school? Yes. Students, yes, he does. Teacher, no. Students, no, he does not. That is the question and answer drill. Fourth is the transformation drill. Example, teacher, I clean the house. Students, I don't clean the house. Teacher, she sings a song. Students, she doesn't sing a song. Fifth is the chain drill. Example, teacher, what is the color of the sky? The color of the sky is blue. What is the color of banana? The color of banana is yellow. What is the color of leaf? The students will answer the color of leaf is green. And what is the color of eyes? The student will answer the color of eyes is black and white. Next is expansion drill. Example is, the teacher will say, my mother is a doctor. Then the students will repeat, my mother is a doctor. Another teacher will say, she works in the hospital. Then the students will repeat, my mother is a doctor and she works in the hospital. That is the method. 7 is communicative drills, or in our own term, the Pinoy Henyo. It means that the teacher will ask the student what is specific thing, and the students will answer all of those things.
The theory emphasizes the listening, speaking, reading, and writing order. Listening is important developing speaking proficiency and so receives particular emphasis. There are strong arguments, both physiological and psychological, for combining the speaking practice with training in listening comprehension. Speaking is effective through listening by hearing the sound. Articulation is more accurate. With differentiation of sounds, memorization, and internalization of proper auditory sounds images. Development of a feel for the new language gains interest for the language. There has been particularly no study or experiments to determine how much time should be taken between listening experience and speaking practice. Listening comprehension is most neglected language learning. It is generally treated as incidental to speaking rather than as a foundation for it. Texts, guides, and course of study contain texts for evaluating progress in listening comprehension, but they rarely contain specific learning materials designed for the systematic development of this skill. The advantage of audiolingual method. First is listening and speaking skills are emphasized, and especially the former rigorously developed. Second is the use of visual aid is effective in vocabulary teaching. The third is the method is just a functional and easy to execute for larger groups. The third is correct pronunciation and structure are emphasized and acquired. Fourth is it is a teacher-dominated method. And the last is the learner is a directed role. The learner has little control over the material studied or this method of study. The disadvantage of it is the behaviorist approach to learning is now discredited. Many scholars have proved its weakness. It does not pay sufficient attention to communicate competence. Only language from considered well-meaning is neglected. Equal importance is not given to all 4 skills. It is a teacher-dominated method. It is a mechanical method since it demands pattern, practice, drilling, memorization over functional learning organic usage. The learner is in a passive role. The learner has little control over replacement. One word is repeated by another. For example, he bought a car for a half price, and then he bought it for a half price. The next is the restatement. The student replaces an utterance. The sentence may be different.
Or hypothesis is one of the hypotheses developed by the linguist Stephen Krashen. The monitor hypothesis asserts that a learner's learned system acts as a monitor to what they are producing. In other words, while only the acquired system is able to produce spontaneous speech, the learned system is used to check what is being spoken. Tolerance, he or she eternally scans for errors and uses the learned system to make corrections. Self-corrections occurs when the learner utters the monitor is correct at an utterance after what it is uttered. Such self-monitoring and self-corrections are the only functions of conscious language learning. The monitor models then predicts faster initial progress by adults than children's, as adults uses this monitor when producing second language or target language utterances before having acquired the ability for natural performance, and adult learners will input more into conversation earlier than children.
Second, the acquirer must focus on the correctness. He or she must be thinking about form, and it is difficult to focus on meaning and form at the same time. Third, the acquirer or learner must have time to use the monitor. Using the monitor requires the speaker to slow down and focus on form.
Interlanguage has two definitions. In general sense, is defined as the interim grammars constructed by the learner of a second language on his way to the target language. Second, is the interlanguage is defined as the second language learner's present knowledge of the language he is learning. So there are some theoretical assumptions about interlanguage. Underlying interlanguage are as follows. First, the process of learning consists of rule formation or hypothesis testing. Second, the mistakes made by the learner are a natural procedure of a language learning. Third one, there is a psychological structure latent in the brain which is activated when one attempts to learn a second language. Last one, many learners do not achieve the full L2 or second language, TL, target language, and FL, foreign language competence.
These grammars are permeable. We are exposed to influences both from outside the learner and from the learner's internal processing. These suggest that the learner's performance is variable. These grammars are transitional. The learner changes his grammar from one time to another by adding rules, deleting rules, and reconstructing the whole system. Thus, in every stage of learning, there is an interlanguage. Through the gradual process of checking and rechecking hypotheses, the learner keeps changing its interlanguage until the target language system is fully acquired and shaped. This gradual progression naturally implies to an interlanguage continuum.
In conclusion, interlanguage is by far the strongest contender amongst the second language learning theories. The theory of interlanguage was the first major attempt to explain the process of second language learning in terms of mentalist perspectives. After its introduction by Selinker, it has been gradually developed by the hands of numerous researchers. As this time, it has become much defined and also contributed a lot in developing many other theories. Although vague in many points, it has been able to provide significant suggestions for the theories of second language learning.
present in humans, these are the evidences. Formal learning theory. Related to this empirical finding is evidences from formal math based on Gold's theorem as described in this wiki on poverty of the stimulus. The basic idea is that the input the humans or computational systems get while learning language leaves open a wide range of different linguistic systems that could generate that very input. It may even be an infinite number of models. I don't recall. This is similar to the more general scientific challenge. The inverse problem, what are inverse set of data, will always allow for more than one possible underlying model. UG is a proposed way of limiting the set of models to precisely the right one that represent the language in question. Children do not make the mistake of learning a put-do one spot to the left rule and instead always learn a put-do at the beginning of a sentence rule even when all their input satisfies both. Based on this, it's been argued that there are some grammars human can learn and some grammars human can't learn regardless of input. These constraints on what constitutions a possible human language are part of. Critical period. Back to child language learning. There is also something called critical period. You may be familiar with the notion if you've heard that children can only learn a language fluently before the age of 7 years of age. If there is some ability that children have, then the abruptly disappears without the disappearance of any other cognitive ability. Then we need to define the ability. That ability seems to distinguish everything else in the cognitive system and that is claimed to also be evidence of UG.
Finally, the last piece of evidence comes from the typology, or the study of the properties of human languages and how they do and do not vary. Linguists, foremost among Joseph Greenberg, have observed that languages pattern in very specific ways. For example, if a language is verb, subject, object, for example, kicks she the ball. Furthermore, in typology, once your universal grammar is totally used, you can actually identify what is wrong from what is right.